I'm Alexandria. The air in the ballroom was thick with chaos, a far cry from the fairy tale wedding it was supposed to be. The once grand space now resembled a battlefield, with trampled flowers, overturned chairs, and broken glass scattered everywhere. I stood at the edge of it all, watching as my sister Isabella's perfect world crumbled before her eyes. 6 months ago, Isabella, my older sister, was the center of our family's universe. We grew up in a well-to-do family in the heart of the city. Our parents, Victor and Elise, were wealthy socialites. My mother, Elise, had once dreamed of being a famous actress, but had to give up her dreams due to a family obligation. She poured all her unfulfilled ambitions into Isabella. Isabella was the kind of girl who turned heads wherever she went. With her long, platinum, blonde hair, crystal, blue eyes, and a figure that could grace a runway, she was every bit the social media influencer with 500,000 followers. My mother was obsessed with grooming her for a life of glamour and success. Meanwhile, I was the opposite. I had chestnut, brown hair, and hazel eyes. My mother once told me I had an interesting face, and I'd learned to blend into the background. I'd been dating Lucas, a kind-hearted elementary school teacher, for 2 years. He was the one who made me laugh, who remembered my birthday, and who always treated me like I was special. But when I first brought him to meet my parents, my mother barely concealed her disappointment. A teacher? How? Noble, she'd said, her tone laced with condescension. 3 years ago, at a high-profile charity event, Isabella met Ethan Montgomery. The Montgomery family was old money, with wealth that spoke for itself. When Isabella brought Ethan home for dinner, my mother was over the moon. From that moment on, every conversation at the dinner table revolved around Ethan, his job at an investment firm, his family's mansion in the countryside, and his mother's preference for a spring wedding. I sat there, invisible as always, while they mapped out Isabella's future as if I didn't exist. Lucas squeezed my hand under the table, but he didn't say a word. He knew better. Ethan proposed to Isabella on her 34th birthday with a 5-carat diamond ring on a private yacht in the harbor. The engagement party was a lavish affair at the Montgomery estate. I was only invited as family help because, as Isabella put it, space was limited. As I wandered through the party, feeling like a ghost, I noticed Jake, Ethan's younger brother. He was a fitness model with chiseled features and a hungry look in his eyes. I saw him watching Isabella across the room, and there was a strange, electric tension between them. When I got home that night, Lucas could tell something was wrong. He pulled me into his arms and said, "You don't have to keep doing this. You deserve better." I just clung to him, hoping that one day my parents would see me for who I was. A few months later, Ethan announced that they'd be spending $100,000 on the wedding. The dress alone cost $20,000. I had been engaged to Lucas for 3 months at that point. We'd planned a simple backyard wedding. But when I told my parents, my mother burst into laughter. "Do you really think anyone would come to your little gathering? Isabella's wedding is going to be the event of the year. We have to focus our resources where it matters," she said. My father just sat there, silent, like he always did when it came to issues about me. The bridal shower was held at a posh hotel downtown. I was there to help set up, not as a guest. While I was arranging the gift table, I saw Isabella secretly texting on her phone, a smile playing on her lips. Ethan was out of town, so I wondered who could be making her smile like that. A few days later, I got a call from Ryan, Ethan's best man. He was a journalist, and he said he needed to talk to me about Isabella. We met at a coffee shop, and he told me that he'd seen Isabella and Jake together multiple times, including leaving Jake's apartment late at night. He showed me photos as proof. I was shocked, but I also knew I couldn't just let Ethan marry someone who was lying to him. Ryan asked me to help him expose the truth, but I was terrified. I was afraid of what my parents and Isabella would think of me. I told Ryan to do what he had to do, but to leave me out of it. 1 week before the wedding, Ryan called again. He had all the evidence he needed, a video from the engagement party and screenshots of months of text messages between Isabella and Jake. The day of the wedding finally arrived. I sat in the back row, the 299th guest out of 300. The ceremony was beautiful, with Isabella looking like a princess in her stunning gown. But as she and Ethan exchanged vows, I knew the truth. At the reception, my mother took the microphone to give a speech about her perfect daughter. She barely even mentioned me, just calling me the other daughter like an afterthought. Then Ryan took the microphone. He started his speech normally, but then his tone changed. He said Ethan deserved the truth about his bride. The massive screen behind the head table flickered to life, showing Isabella and Jake in a passionate embrace at the engagement party. The room went dead silent. Ethan's face turned white as a sheet. Isabella started screaming, "Turn it off." But Ryan continued, showing the text messages for everyone to see. Chaos erupted. Ethan lunged at Jake, and it took several people to hold him back. Isabella tried to explain, saying it was a mistake, but Ethan wouldn't listen. He announced that he'd be filing for an annulment immediately. My parents were in shock. My mother grabbed me, screaming, "You knew about this, didn't you? Why didn't you tell us?" I calmly replied, "Would you have believed me? Or would you have just called me jealous?" I left the ballroom, walking past the wreckage of what was supposed to be a perfect wedding. Lucas was waiting for me in the parking lot. "How bad?" he asked. I simply said, "It was a nightmare." In the weeks that followed, Isabella's social media following collapsed. Brands that had sponsored her dropped her like a hot potato. She moved back into our childhood home, broken and defeated. 2 weeks after the wedding, my mother called me. She said she'd been thinking about everything and was sorry she hadn't seen who Isabella really was. But I pressed her on how she'd treated me all these years. She hesitated, and that's when I knew she still hadn't really changed. A few months later, Lucas and I set a date for our simple backyard wedding. I called my parents and invited them, but I made it clear they had to come as my parents, not as Isabella's parents, who just happened to have another daughter. To my surprise, they said they'd come. The day of our wedding, it rained hard, but it didn't matter. Our small gathering of 30 people who truly loved us was more precious than any elaborate event. My parents were there, and for the first time, I felt like they were actually seeing me. Isabella sent me flowers and a card, saying she hoped this was the start of my happily ever after. Maybe one day, we could heal our relationship, but for now, I was focused on building a life with Lucas, a life where I was seen, valued, and loved for who I am. Looking back, I've learned that waiting for others to validate you is a waste of time. You have to build your own life on your own terms. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away from the shadows and into the light.